Just a moment.
The latest entry in a series that dates back to the NES days, and for which I only briefly played part of Devil Summoner prior to this, and no, the Persona games don't count. Shin Megami Tensei 5 is what happens when you take every religious and mythological text on Earth, melt it down, forge it into a knife, and slice a hole in the fabric of reality with it. It's hard to discuss what's going on in Shin Megami Tensei 5 without spoiling much, but the short, less spoiler-heavy version is you play a young man.
Young man.
That's what I said, a young man who...
Young man.
I said a young man who...
Young man.
Let's do this a little differently. A Japanese student caught in the midst of a struggle between various entities and Lucifer in either future or alternate versions of the world where demons and mythological beings of all sorts are running wild. You partner/meld with a being called Aogami to form an entity called the Nahobino, and both fight demons and recruit them to your side in order to find/rescue your classmates and repel the more evil forces to save your world from being overrun. Based on what you're seeing, you can probably tell that this has varying levels of success. I've played so many action RPGs as of late that I sort of lost appreciation for good turn-based battle systems. One turn is divided into a number of moves determined by the number of party members, and everyone performs one action in a set order. However, an extra turn can be earned by landing a critical hit, using magic an enemy is weak to, or passing while the point indicators aren't all glowing. That said, missing an attack or using magic that the enemy is totally resistant to will take away an extra turn. Then there's the Magatsuhi gauge, which, when full, can enact various buffs or abilities for the whole party. I have a tendency to tune out regular battles in RPGs, but because these rules also apply to the enemies, any demons somewhat close to my level range were ultimately capable of dealing serious damage to my party. And considering that the player character losing all their health is a game over, there were a few times a normal battle got me killed. I was expecting this game to be a bit more grind heavy, and while I have done some grinding here and there, I've mostly just needed to adjust my default playstyle. This ties into one of the things the Megami Tensei series is known for: its difficulty. From what I've heard from some longtime SMT fans, Shin Megami Tensei 5 is not nearly as unforgivingly hard as some prior entries, thanks in part to some quality of life changes I'll get into later. The perceived difficulty from my end was in part because of my ingrained RPG habits that I had to break. For instance, many RPGs I played had little emphasis on buff or debuff spells, whereas in SMT 5 they were sometimes critical for me to use. Several RPGs I played didn't emphasize item use much, leading to me stockpiling and rarely using most of them, while in SMT 5 there were bosses where item use was a big reason I ultimately won the fight, as well as certain other battles where I used magic items or the spyglass to reveal what demons were weak to or resistant to. One thing I was expecting upon seeing the world in this game was somewhat awkward movement controls, as is often the case with RPGs that try doing big 3D worlds without a particular emphasis on movement or platforming controls. While there is a slight learning curve to how the Nahobino moves, the adjustment period was very small, and I was able to handle what platforming the game has fairly easily, the bulk of which isn't necessary to do. The jumping isn't too floaty, nor is it the opposite. Movement is tight and can be anywhere from a slow walk to a full-on Naruto sprint to handle everything from a school hallway to a big open desert. One particularly nice feature is being able to hit the triggers and have the Nahobino sprint automatically.
Young man.
Cruise control,
Young man.
Just make sure to steer every now and then to not fly off a cliff or slam into a wall or demon. Certain elements allow for a smoother experience to those new to Megami Tensei. There are certain areas where drops spawn to replenish health, magic, and Magatsuhi. Founts can be used to warp between several points on the map, cutting down travel time. There's a mechanic for finding items laying around the world which can either be used in battle or sold for extra money. And then there's the whole recruiting demons thing, where if you do it successfully but don't have room in the party, you can encounter them later, they'll remember talking to you, and join your party when there's an open space. Oh, right, I never explained how this works. It's possible to have many demons in the party at once and even swap them into and out of battle, but they need to be negotiated with to join up. There's definitely some trial and error involved with figuring out what to say or give each demon so they'll cooperate. But I like it for 3 reasons. 1. Even if you fail and the demon runs off or keeps fighting, they're typically not hard to track down again, and you can talk to the same demon multiple times even after failed negotiations. 2. Most demons can also be attained by fusing 2 or more other demons together. Said demons can then be registered and summoned again at any time for a modest price. And 3. This helps give the demons some personality so they're not just a list of attacks and a mythical backstory attached to a party slot. Some are timid, some are aggressive, some want to bang you. Yes, really? As such, I'm not going to do something stupid like, say, compare Shin Megami Tensei 5 to Pokemon, even though the series is nearly a decade older than... God damn it, this is like when people called Monster Hunter a Dark Souls game all over again. SMT games typically have strong soundtracks, and not only does SMT 5 hit that mark, it does well with the sound design in general. It's often the little things that make the difference, like how the battle tracks won't start playing until someone attacks. As for the music, all I'm saying is, don't be surprised if there's a video of me playing bass to one of these tracks at some point. In some ways, I wish what I heard was as good as what I saw. I'm not referring to the presentation or designs, because I like the look of the world and its people, and particularly the demons. Everything from slimes to mermaids to jack demons to skulls with snakes in them to bisected harpies to horseback knights to horned demons straddling toilets. This is something you've more than likely noticed by now, but SMT5 does not run smoothly on the Switch. Aside from the frame rate usually not getting near 60 in gameplay or cutscenes, texture pop-in on transitions is fairly common. I know that will bother some people, but since it doesn't affect my ability to play the game or the quality of my play, I don't consider it more than a minor annoyance. I wasn't entirely sure what I was getting into with Shin Megami Tensei 5, but it wound up hooking me fairly quickly. There's a lot more layers to most everything in this game that I couldn't possibly cover in this more abbreviated format, like shifting around weaknesses or acquiring new attacks through essences and melding, the lunar cycle's influence on untamed demons, the Me-Man hunts and glory system to earn extra items and relics, or purchase upgrades to demon and Nahobino abilities, the long list of side quests, some of which have more than one possible ending and as such different rewards, or the long list of references made to past SMT titles, particularly through the junk found in the vending machines, or the 2 different forms of New Game Plus. There's no shortage of stuff to do, and the majority of it does not come off as busy work, so assuming that the battle system and or plot are engaging to you, you'll be in this for anywhere from 50 to 70 hours, and that's if you're not being a completionist. Even if you pick safety mode just to see the story and important events, that's still a solid 25 to 30-ish hours. I know I'm one to usually emphasize the quality of time spent in a video game over the sheer quantity of time because, for example, 10 hours of Tony Hawk Ride is infinitely worse than 5 hours of Blazing Chrome. But in this case, I massively enjoyed the overwhelming majority of the massive amount of time I've been spending with Shin Megami Tensei 5. Even if I do get tired of being referred to as
Young man.
Watch out for that tree! Watch out for that tree!